Welcome to Far From Eden. We all have our guilty pleasures, right? Well, mine, I like to watch the Whatever podcast sometimes. I can sit through several hours of it. It's captivating to watch what these women think, and especially their thoughts on, society and men and that kind of a thing. The dating stuff, I feel like it's back in the day when there used to be, letters like Playboy letters or whatever that people would read. I'm like, it's, salacious and all those things. But once in a while, especially when there's a good conservative on there, or, good enough that I agree with, it's definitely worth watching. Andrew Wilson is one of them that I get a lot of satisfaction watching him roast them. So I was very interested to watch this one episode, or at least some of it, with his wife, Rachel. And I know you guys have told me time and time again that I should read her book, and it is on the list of books to read. I respect her a lot, and even more after watching her on this show. However, I was in for a bit of a surprise because there was this one woman, and I say woman because she was not a girl, There was this one on there, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna not like her at all. She seemed like kind of a ballbuster, But she said some things that you just don't hear that often, and I was blown away that she said them, and I'm so glad she said them with that group of chicks, because they need to understand that they're just doing what they've been programmed to do. So, without further ado, I think he said Leonarda, something like that. He's about to introduce her, and Brian's about to introduce her. I mean, you guys will see what I mean. But the conspiracy, the theory stuff is golden. All right.
You were a former feminist.
Correct.
And now you're a current anti-feminist?
I don't know. I'm a hardcore conspiracy theorist, and I realize the truth about a lot of propaganda that's being fed both to feminists and the red pill male community, which is the male version of feminism.
Now, red pill, that definition has, I guess, changed, because when Cassie J did her movie, The Red Pill, it was just about knowing, the truth about the men and women and that kind of a thing. Now, red pill is Andrew Tate. Red pill is guys go out and have bedroom fun with as many women as you can, and make a lot of money and work out, and who cares about women, and it's been hijacked. Shockingly, it's been hijacked, because that's not what the majority of men feel, think, are doing. But that red pill part, that Andrew Tate sort of promiscuous male, which is ridiculous, because how many men can actually be promiscuous? So I just wanted to stop there, because I don't agree with everything this chick says. It just shocked me, some of the things she said that were right on point. Red pill being the opposite of feminism, and I don't think so. I think she's still got some of her old feminism in there, which is another thing to point out, because a lot of women, they'll be like, I'm not a feminist, and that you look hard enough, or you just pay attention enough, and it's still there. So just want to explain. I don't want you to think that I agree with everything she says.
And then I see the repercussions of that on women, even here, right? Because they teach them a lot of BS.
Yeah.
Who's they?
I love that she pointed to the women, even here, because she's looking at the women like, you know what, you morons, you're just doing what the propaganda has convinced you to do. Look at you with like half dressed, and you're young and you already have plastic surgery, and like, look at it. they don't see themselves. But I love that she just says it. I feel like she like broke the fourth wall, something like that on this. And I think Rachel's very good. I don't know. It would be hard for me to remain quiet as well as Rachel does. But she does a good job.
Women's studies departments.
Well, I think communists have taken over our whole system. I think they've taken over the university system. They've taken over the media for sure. They push promiscuity, degeneracy as liberation, and the only ones who benefit off of women freely giving away sex are deadbeat guys who do not want to give you anything. They just want to take. So
the reason she looked at the girl next to her in the blue is the girl next to her, I think it's already been established in the show, the girl next to her is in a relationship where the guy is allowed to have bedroom fun with whoever he wants, and she is not. So it's monogamous on her part only. And she thinks that that's all traditional and stuff. And that's not healthy. That's not a healthy situation at all.
Yes,
your guy in the car is a verifiable loser who will probably never do anything with his life, will continue to grift on women. He was hanging.
That was another one that this chick was living in a car with a guy
around because he had a free ride with you, and he gave you just enough to keep you interested. I've known these men in my life. I've seen it for women, and I try to do my best.
Those men are rare. So this is why I thought I was not going to like her. But the more she kept talking about the way it's all been planned for us to behave this way, the more I agreed with her. And I just think it should be, spread from the rooftops.
To tell young women that they're under the thumb of oppression, even though it's being presented to them as liberation.
Yes. Let's go. That was great. Oh, you're not all supposed to agree. You're supposed to fight with us.
Well, I think you disagree.
She will fight with us.
I do disagree. I'm not with the premise. I would agree with everything you said about this guy, although you are 19 years old, and I feel like that's just a classic 19-year-old experience. I don't know what that has to do with feminism.
It's a classic. Well, I'll tell you right now. It's a
classic.
One Motorsports donated $200. Mrs. Wilson, F the haters, you owe one any explanations, and your haters will never believe you anyway. Your actions speak louder than any words they can scream. Blessing to you and Andrew.
Thank you, Grid One. Appreciate you, man.
Good to see you in the chat, Grid One. Go ahead with your point.
So what that has to do with feminism, first of all, it's not a common 19-year-old experience. It's presented as a common 19-year-old experience, and it's relatively new in our modern age. And you really want to say probably since the mid-90s, early 2000s. And that's really when this whole promiscuity with women's been pushed. Second of all, the reason it has to do with feminism is because feminism teaches women that having casual sex with a man is within their scope of being equal and on par with men, and by being that way they are liberated and empowered, which is total BS. Whereas women have known for centuries that their sex was of huge value and would demand something in return for that would actually show them their worth.
Yes.
So that's exactly what it has to do with feminism.
That is a very good way to get through to women. I wish that I could explain to women how wonderful men are and how good men are and that they're not oppressive, but they're so brainwashed against it. They're so bought into that narrative that we can't. But the way she's presenting it, I very much like, because I think, do you notice the women are not arguing? Do you notice that it is very telling that these women are not arguing with her because they know, look, at the end of the day, they don't want to be promiscuous. I know you guys will be like, what are you talking about? They look like they do. They want attention. They want attention. They want validation, etc. But they don't really want to be promiscuous. If they did, they would be arguing with this chick right now. They would be, they'd be saying, well, who are you to say that I can't, do this and do that? And they're not saying that. She's saying, look, feminism taught you that being promiscuous was power, was liberation, was all of this. And it's not. And none of them are arguing. They are all quiet. Now, there's one over there that she tries a little bit, but just makes it better. She just, like they all do, they always just make our points for us, whether they realize it or not. I don't know if Brian, I don't know what his intention is for this podcast, but I like these conversations that come out of it. I don't know who's all paying attention, but we're going to highlight this lady for a little bit here and some of the back and forth about feminism, because it brings in this whole idea of the CIA and what feminism was really about that I haven't heard a lot of places, especially said to an audience of young women sitting right here captive.
I don't think that I have ever heard that from. When did you graduate college? Like what year?
2012.
Okay, so it's been a while since you've been in college, so I'm not sure.
Correct.
Like,
I didn't have this in my college education, by the way. I went to a Jesuit university that was pretty fantastic and did not give me this BS.
I was going to say, I'm currently in college for a little bit too long, and I have never heard any of this from any professors. I've never heard any of this from my peers.
Heard what exactly?
That casual sex is empowering, and
you don't watch TV, you don't see it on social media, you don't hear it in the music, you don't hear Cardi B and What's Her Face being like my wet ass pussy.
I'll give you Cardi B, maybe music, maybe like rap music.
I mean, that's the culture. What is that reflective of? The fact that that's in the mainstream means it's been accepted by people. They could have never put that on TV.
I mean, women were
accepting
ago. Pretty brutal treatment from men pre-feminism.
All right. I was watching this, and it was like I was watching a sporting event. I was like, get him, get him. I was mostly cheering for Rachel because I don't know this lady, but I was like, oh my God, set her straight.
We can get into that.
I'm sure we can. My parents are old. My parents are 65 and 75. I know what was happening in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Like,
from the perspective of your two parents, you're going to generalize to the whole population?
My parents have friends. I mean, are you going to generalize the population from her experience with a bum?
No, not at all. I'm generalizing from reading.
I also read. I am currently in college, and I'm telling you that no one I know who's it.
I can't listen to anybody who talks about that they're in college or what their professors say is any kind of a, it doesn't make it more credible. It doesn't. Like, do you not realize that your college is completely leftist? You don't, obviously not. I don't know why I asked these questions. Oh my gosh, I would love to go on this channel. They want you to contact them through Instagram, but I don't have Instagram. I gotta get in contact with Brian some other way. Maybe he'd let little old me go on there, argue with these women.
Soc major. I don't know any feminist studies majors, but none of them are hearing this. I've never encountered a communist
let's
professor.
Say they're not. Are your friends engaging in casual hookups?
No, not my friends.
Not your friends, but are women on campus engaging in casual hookups?
Undoubtedly. And they were also doing that in the 90s, 80s, 70s, even the 60s and the 50s.
You're talking about the sexual revolution, right?
Me?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is when the sexual revolution was happening, right? So I'm talking pre-feminism. Do you know when feminism started?
Do I know, there's no...
No, you don't have to know the date,
that feminism
around
started,
the time.
But I mean...
Let's...
Go
ahead.
I was going to say, I would say, as an actual political movement, probably, the early 1900s, late 1800s. But I think
so. You're talking about the right to vote? Yes.
No, not just that, but I mean, having a sort of political consciousness that women.
She has no idea. But notice she can't say it.
Are lacking something.
Sorry, she won't say it
politically and trying to think what was like John Adams' wife, Don't Forget the Ladies, like that kind of stuff has been around for a long time.
Right. And this sexual push to make women be more promiscuous, do you know when that really started?
I mean, if we're talking about like the sexual revolution, I would say probably late 60s, 70s.
Right. So that would be the whole time period that you were saying that women were engaging in casual
Well, no,
hookups.
women were engaging in casual sex before the sexual revolution. I think that the push was more to normalize it. And I'm not saying that I think that it's a good thing. I really don't. But
you don't see the connection to feminism with that. That's what you're saying.
No, obviously the sexual revolution is connected to feminism. I'm saying that casual sex was happening before that.
Right, but you
Not
don't
on a mass scale.
You don't
like
see the push between casual sex and women. I mean, there is a low consciousness among women these days about what they can command in exchange with a man. It's incredible.
I would agree with that, honestly. I see your point there. I think that women accept subpar treatment constantly, but I don't think it's feminism.
I think it's 100% the consequence of feminism, which is ironic. But again, I think we live in a satanic world that presents everything upside down from the opposite of what it is. So they present to you feminism as your liberation and your empowerment, and it ends up doing the exact opposite.
Just curious who you think they is. Like, do you think every woman looks to Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion for their like
they don't have
guiding
to.
morals?
It's pervasive. It's everywhere. You put on reality TV, they're doing it. You put on the Kardashians, they're doing it. You put on music, they're talking about it. You put on rap music, they're talking about it. You put on it's all over. You put on even like, I don't know what it's called, the white people music where they're like playing, I don't know. It's all really sad. They're all depressed
like
all
the
time.
coffee house music,
stuff like that. They're talking about the same stuff, you know, and so it's pervasive. Like when you are swimming in the water, you cannot see it, but it is once you start to see it, you see it everywhere, and it's pretty disgusing.
Well, I have a question.
Super based, by the way. Go ahead.
My question is, what would be an effective counter movement? Because it seems like you're saying that women are being oppressed. So when a movement...
That's all she can hear. Women are being oppressed. They are so in it. Like she said, when you're in the water, you can't see it. They're so in it, they can't see it. But they are listening. They are listening to her. See, they are all listening. The angle is very interesting to me because I want to learn how to reach out to women to show them that there is a problem. And this was very educational for me. So let's continue with what this girl thinks is you. So you're saying we're being oppressed. Okay.
For women's actual liberation.
I think women are oppressing themselves. I think that's the best thing a demon can do is get you to hurt yourself and harm yourself.
Yeah. So when we want to elevate women's conscious about that, like social conscious about that,
yeah,
what would be like, in my opinion, I think, feminism has changed over time.
Correct.
And I think
it's gotten worse.
I think it would be a really effective movement to take back feminism because I feel like you guys agree on a lot of the stuff about casual sex isn't beneficial for women. And an effective way to communicate that to women is to say, I'm a feminist. I actually want you to stand up for yourself. I want you to,
Yeah. Well, in general, I don't like labels. Feminism as it is was constructed by the CIA with Gloria Steinem. She was in the CIA. It's very well documented. So I don't want to use a label like that. I think it's just too tainted. I, in general, don't really like labels. I don't ascribe to being a Democrat or a Republican. I think they're both pieces of shit most of the time. Sorry, I don't know if I could say that. But I think the more effective thing would be, I think you need to approach women with a tremendous amount of compassion.
Yeah, and I think women
and
respond.
Education.
Oftentimes, women respond to feminism. So that's
why they I don't know if they respond. I don't really think they're thinking most of the time.
But I mean, are you?
There you go. I don't really think they're thinking most of the time. She's right, and she knows because she used to be one. And I know because I used to call myself that. I was never big red. I was never like with the signs or anything like that. But I thought it was like, yay, I care about women. And they're all proving you don't know until you're in it. And some of them are very promiscuous right now, or like girl in the blue here, very quiet because her man is very promiscuous. And they know it's not good. They know it's not good for them.
you say, well, if they don't respond to feminism, then how are they getting these messages that feminism is pushing, and how are they implementing that in their lives?
Infiltrated.
Well,
so
no,
they are listening. So
no.
You're right.
Hold
I
on,
agree with you.
hold on. I said I don't think they're thinking about it. A lot of times when things are advanced on many levels, we accept it without conscious thought. There's a difference between that. We'll just accept like, oh, that's true. Like, for example, everybody thinks we should drink 8 glasses of water a day. We weren't doing that when we were in the wild. We were totally fine. Why is that now common knowledge? Well, I think it's because they put fluoride in the water and they want everybody getting enough of it. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Wait, how did we get to the fluoride thing?
Because I'll always tie something back to fluoride, dude. I think fluoride makes people passive, and it makes you passive. It lowers your IQ, and it makes you unresistant to propaganda.
I mean, I filter my water, so like against fluoride, not just regular like basic filter, like filter. So I don't know. That's why I was digging this girl. I don't think she's soft and ladylike. So, but I think a lot of what she is saying is very well. First of all, a lot of what she's saying is true, and I'm loving how effective it seems to be. Now, girl in the red next to her is already kind of conservative. Girl in the blue is clearly probably the most leftist there. And then there are some that are just kind of bored because it isn't about them right now. But they're not arguing, which again is fascinating because women will argue. And I know I don't have to tell you guys that.
And now you said in your pre-show notes that you think that you kind of already touched on this, how promiscuity is a CIA psyop.
Correct. Psychological operation.
Yeah.
I think they did it to the men first with James Bond and presenting this guy as like superhero. Oh,
wait, James Bond is a psyop?
Correct.
I never thought of that before. But when she said it, I was like, oh my God, that's true. Because from what I know from you guys, from your emails and your comments, and those of you I've spoken to, just a couple, it's not like a big thing, but yeah, most of you don't want to have a bunch of different women. That's not your nature, But then she said James Bond, being the ladies' man, and I was like, they did that to men. So let's listen to what the rest of what she has to say about how James Bond was a psyop. This whole thing got derailed. Society did, and we're doing our own little sociological commentary thanks to the Whatever podcast, getting this group of people together so we can analyze them.
James Bond is a psyop.
Yeah, if you know who wrote the James Bond novels, he was actually an intelligence officer.
There you go. It's to make the intelligence agencies seem cool and like they're protecting you and they're the good guys. And then in addition to that, they threw in a sexual promiscuity angle for men so that men would think, oh, this is what I aspire to. Now, there are always have been men within the population. It's a small percentage who were promiscuous. They're geared that way. They're wired that way. They're also usually the most aggressive. We needed them to be fighters. However, that was not the preponderance of men who acted that way. Most men wanted to find a woman, wanted to cherish her, wanted to have children, wanted to provide for her.
Well, I still feel like that doesn't really answer what would be an effective way to combat that. I still don't know what that would be.
My thing that I think the effective way to combat that is, number one, to raise awareness so that women can understand what they're being presented with.
Well, wouldn't that be effective through feminism? That's my point.
Why would that be effective through feminism? Feminism is teaching the exact opposite.
Well, I'm saying you hijack the movement and you change it. The movement has changed so much through time that
what do you mean
can
though?
just say,
what do you mean by hijack the movement? What should the new messaging of the new feminist movement be?
Well, I mean, I think that we understand that the sexual revolution and women having casual sex, it's been painted as, as beneficial. So if you reframe it,
you understand that, and you come from a Catholic background,
yes.
But you cannot think that that is what most women are thinking. They're not thinking that at all.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. That's why I'm saying it would be more effective to communicate that through saying, I'm on your side. I feel like it's just not really very effective to communicate that through saying, feminism gives a really good framework for saying I support women's liberation. And I think real women's liberation is
Liberation from what?
from this, like things like the sexual revolution.
Right.
Okay, but what was the original goal? Like,
Sure,
what,
yeah. I mean, I can say
when you ask a woman what's feminism liberating you from, she'll say the evil patriarchy.
yeah, and
Right.
I mean, would you say that it's sort of a patriarchy that women are under, that men are using women for just, you know, sex? And
It goes back to she cannot get it out of her head that it's oppression and it's men's fault. Like she can understand it for 1 second and her brain goes right back to, it snaps right back, it boomerangs right back to the narrative they want her to think. It's amazing to watch the programming in effect and watch them sort of glitch as truth is revealed that's obvious, and then they keep on going back and regurgitating the lie or trying to take that truth that they just learned and make it fit somehow in the narrative that they've been brainwashed with their entire lives. It's just incredible.
no
I think
marriage
women
or
are
anything?
there's some women that are complicit in that. Like for example, Gloria Steinem was part of that. Frankly, I think it's because she was ugly and nobody liked her, and then she wanted to go ahead and reduce other women to her competitive level because
Yeah.
she could never compete with a truly beautiful and intelligent woman.
I mean,
And
yeah.
so she decided to reduce everybody's worth by doing this.
Yeah.
I think that that's the case for a lot of the, big feminists throughout history. I think if they had been pretty and they could fetch a good man wanted them, I don't think they would be as cranky and wanting to march and, demand things the way they were. I agree with her on that. I was like, yes, keep saying it. Oh my gosh, it's so satisfying to hear the truth anywhere other than me saying it. It's so satisfying.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
so there's plenty of women, and I know older women who go through the feminist thing, realize they're miserable. They're in their 40s, they're childless, they don't have kids, which I'm not saying every woman needs to do that, but a lot of women will realize that they've missed something. And then instead of owning to their mistakes and teaching younger girls to not go that way, they enroll them in the same behavior, and that is evil. And I don't think women should do that.
No, I
And
completely
I think
agree
taking
with
it
that.
out of an ideology of like, oh, it has to be feminism, it has to be some movement. Because I think if you really focus more on like an overall morality, and that can be your focus, but we don't want to do that, right? There's been a wave of we don't want a religion, right? Like America is getting increasingly secularized.
Yes.
And so then when we want to create morals, we have to then hide behind a political ideology or like feminism or communism or an ism, because we can't align to get our morals, because we can't align with a religious a religion. And so then everyone's confused. And so
It goes down to that thing that used to be said when I was younger. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If you don't have, faith in God and in your religion, then that's empty. And that helps you find true north on your moral compass and your purpose. And if you don't have that, it's just empty. So something's going to fill it. That is just human nature. Something will fill it. And when parents don't raise their children and train them up in the way they should go, as the Bible says, no wonder they go to college and this happens, because ideology becomes their religion. And whatever that ideology says becomes what is right and wrong and what is moral and what is. And it's a complete, it's a hijacking of your soul in a way. And I think that lady in the red is very articulate in explaining this. But it's not new. It's definitely not new.
So that's why it's like, oh, but now if I'm not a feminist, I'm anti-woman. And there's all this kind of weight behind either being a feminist or not being a feminist. And that's where, so now like politics has tried to take the role of what religion used to be in our society. And I think that's where it's getting so detrimental.
Grid One Motorsports donated $200. Conspiracy Theory Girl, Can we talk about Disney and the princess effect? How about Rockefeller and the public school system? So many control mechanisms, so little patriarchy.
I'm not familiar with Disney and the princess effect, but I am familiar with Rockefeller, the public school system, and the way they took over the medical system, and pretty much just they are advancing a lot of control mechanisms that way because they put people in schools and indoctrinate them from a young age with these thoughts. But the reason I don't think that it presents well to say I'm a feminist is because, number one, feminism already has such a clear meaning and definition for people.
Does it?
It really
it
doesn't.
does.
But based on what you guys say about feminism, it doesn't, because you say things that are completely at odds with what I hear actual people my age who are in college, what they think about it. It doesn't seem like you're really
What
in
do
tune with,
people your age think about feminism?
they don't think that it's a conspiracy being, like an
Right, so they're
antinatalist, satanic
uninformed.
conspiracy.
They're uninformed. Right. So they're uninformed. This is just awesome.
They're
I
uninformed.
think you might have a little something going on,
Oh,
but,
you-
but
are
I
you-
think that
I think that's
Listen-
still
Whoa,
right.
hold
Like,
on, hold on, hold on.
No.
You got to qualify that statement a little bit.
I
She's
What
calling me
precisely-
crazy, even
what
though it's well
precisely-
documented that Gloria
I
Steinem was a
think-
CIA
I
back
agent.
you up, girl.
I think
Hold
you
on.
have a little conspiracy-minded thing going on where you're looking for a
Right.
conspiracy in everything.
No, I just am informed and educated, and I'm not arrogant
Well,
enough
I
to
could-
assume that my ignorance means that somebody else is crazy.
I
But
mean,
that
I
could
can
be you
also
if you'd
say
like.
I'm informed and educated, and we
Right.
can go back and forth saying that forever.
Well, so do you know then that what she's saying about Gloria Steinem is not only correct, but that through the Congress for Cultural Freedom in the 60s and 70s, the CIA was pushing feminism through like 40 different publications around the world. They sent, people to
I mean, so what if
festivals.
Gloria Steinem was like a CIA operative? Gloria Steinem's not the only
No, I'm
feminist in
saying
the
it's
world.
not just her. I'm saying
I'm
the
not
Congress for Cultural Freedom, which was a widespread CIA program that went around the world in dozens of countries and had hundreds of magazines, newspaper outlets, all pushing feminism. This was not just like one lady. This was like a broad effort during the Cold War to kind of differentiate Western liberal values from Russia. So they pushed feminism and the sexual revolution.
Are you
as part of
anti like
this.
classical liberalism and
Yes,
Western
I
liberal
absolutely
values?
am.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you're also anti-communist. I'm very curious maybe that's
Don't you just have to pick one? Like, what else is there? That's all my professors told me about. Idiot. But man, Rachel Wilson, the two of them, Conspiracy Girl and Rachel Wilson, it was just like, oh, it was so satisfying. Let's watch a little bit more.
it's off topic, but
You can be both.
you can be both communist and
You can be
liberal.
against communism and against Western liberalism.
I don't mean liberalism in like liberal versus
Classical
conservative. Yeah.
liberalism,
You're-
which is
you're
the
against
American
that.
founding.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm against that.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
sorry. Go
oh
ahead.
no, you go for it.
I was just gonna say that I believe that you guys can be completely correct. Like everything you're saying is correct. And how feminism is a psyop. I'm saying psyop back. I feel like that's the best.
She does not know what we're up against. PSYOP back. You're talking about the most powerful government in the history of the world. You're talking about the CIA of the United States and more. You're talking about people like the Rockefellers. Like you, PSYOP back, lady. Good Lord. This is exactly why, you're voting. Okay. It's
That's
crazy.
No, I understand what you're
When?
saying. I think I just disagree that would be the best way. That's all.
I just don't see a better route because I have personally, I have the same experience. I've never had any friends who are genuine feminists who read literature say that they're pro casual sex and that it's really healthy for women to do that. I've never ever heard that ever.
Well, here's what you guys need to understand is that feminism is anything that pushes back against patriarchy and moves toward egalitarianism. So if you think the sexes are equal, we should all have equal rights, so we can get into rights and what you think that all means. But anybody who is saying patriarchy is bad is feminist, whether they identify or know that or not. So
Right.
if you think that just we have to push for women to be equal with men and women have been historically oppressed, that's all feminism, whether
Yep.
you think it is or not.
Well, for egalitarianism and stuff, from my understanding, you believe that egalitarianism means that men and women are just on equal planes, or
It means that they should have like equal rights and equality of, some people would say equality of outcome, some people would say equality of opportunity. Doesn't really
Yeah, but it's
matter
on
to
an
me.
equality of outcome now.
Right,
Is what they mean
yeah.
by it.
let me think. I have to think. I'm sorry.
I just don't think that you guys will ever successfully convince, or whatever movement or not movement you want to be a part of, will ever successfully convince the female population that they should not. At least
I agree with you, which is why
Fight for what? Sorry, continue.
Fight for egalitarianism, whatever
Right.
that means to them.
What is
You'll
it that
never
women don't
convince
have
women to
now?
not- yeah.
What is it that women don't have now that men have?
I'm not saying that there is an imbalance currently, or is or isn't.
Oh, there most certainly is an imbalance. And I just scared Lola. And on this channel, I always forget to ask you kindly to like the video and subscribe to the channel. When I scare Lola, my little dog, I reminded to ask you to please like the video. Yeah, there's an imbalance, all right. In yesterday's video, I talked about the draft and men deaths in the workforce and the jobs that men do, and how our food and shelter and electricity and all kinds of things is dependent on men. So there most certainly is an imbalance. But I'm sure, this little lady in the blue is not going to talk about that. She doesn't know about that. She doesn't know what she doesn't know.
I'm saying that I don't think.
But do you understand the problem? We'll never be able to convince women to not fight for something that they already have.
If they already have it, then what about this problem you're talking about, where women are allowing men to mistreat them?
Correct. That is
because women, the rates of like depression among women.
Allowing men to mistreat them? No, women are choosing to be promiscuous. That's not allowing men to mistreat them. What the heck? See how they take it and they twist it and she doesn't even know she's doing it? Oh,
Women are so unhappy, and it's gone like there's a direct correlation with levels of unhappiness of women documented.
Okay, so it sounds like women have something that men don't have, which you're claiming is not true.
But hold on a second. No, don't do that. You're shifting tides. First of all, you said that women that you'll never be able to stop. You'll never be able to convince women to stop fighting for equal rights. And I said, what is it that we don't have that men have in that department? Now, what she's pointing out is a consequence of that very fight, because the supposed it's a consequence of the feminism.
How can you say that? There's a ton of
because it
correlates
correlates directly with the rise of the movement.
But it also correlates with time passing. It correlates with a bunch of 9/11. You could blame it on
correlation. Does not
70s. Do you know what year 9/11 happened?
Well, you didn't mention the 70s. I'm saying you could. I'm saying you could literally point to any random event that happened throughout history and say, well, this is why women started becoming.
You're 100% correct. The correlation does not equal causation. However, there is strong connection between these things that we see women who continue along the path that, so quote unquote, feminism would get you to. By the way, the extreme of feminism, because I did study feminism, is a lesbian separatist feminism in which they want to live on an island away from men, use them for their semen, only keep the female. I'm not kidding. This is a real thing. You guys can look it up.
With lesbian separatism.
You can look it up.
I'm familiar with
my issue is, number one, I don't think men and women should be at each other's throats. And this goes for the right-wing movement too, which is a little bit of your podcast, where they set men up to see women as these evil, like manipulative creatures, and then women are set up to see men as these like evil, tyrannical, power-hungry creatures.
Well, who's doing what in a family course? Who's doing that? Who? This lady has a little bit more to go, because women's unhappiness is mostly self-inflicted, and men's unhappiness is mostly female inflicted. So I know that she wouldn't agree with that. And like I said, I don't agree with everything that this lady says, but a lot of what she says is absolutely on point.
There are both of these things within the population. I've had experience with both of them. I'm not saying they don't exist. But however, to have a movement that continually tells women this is what they want from you sets us up to be unhappy, because I believe we are made to be in partnership with the other sex and not at war with them.
I think my problem with just what you're saying in general is I think we're diagnosing the same issue. But
Not McKin Money Offer Podcast donated $200. Okay. Please redirect the conversation to the left-hand corner of the table. I have a really high run on the number of likes for this show. Shut up, leptonic woman in black.
Make me, bitch.
I don't
anyway,
know.
so
She's still very combative. I don't know. She's edgy. I don't know what she's been through.
I was just saying, I think that we have the same, like, we're diagnosing the same problem. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure.
I'm saying that my problem is that I think that men are taking advantage of women via casual sex in the sexual revolution.
Correct. I also think men themselves are a victim of this propaganda.
Yeah, I completely
Thank
agree.
you.
But I'm just saying, I don't see an effective solution for it other than what I've proposed, and I don't see
Which
you
is
giving
hijacking
one.
feminine. I
Yeah.
did give one. I said I believe that we should approach women with compassion, raise their consciousness so they can truly
But
understand
how?
the problem.
How? What would be the way to do that?
Well, this is one way. Education, speaking up.
They could read my book and find out the truth about how all of this went down, and that it wasn't this grassroots movement where women looked around in the 1800s and went, oh my God, we're oppressed. We have to march in the streets until we have voting rights and bank accounts. And that it was just this thing that's time had come, because it's complete bullshit. It's not true, and that's not how it happened. It was an astroturf movement from the beginning, from the 1700s, or even further back if you want to go there. So this idea that there is even such a thing as like, oh, we can have women's rights and egalitarianism only at the behest of the men who are going to enforce it for you anyway.
Well,
so like, I think if you just get through to women about some of these things, it will help. But also, do we really want to like depend on turning the opinion of women toward how things ought to be?
Well, I think that
I don't know about that.
I mean, I'm only referring to the sexual revolution. Like, I'm not talking necessarily about egalitarianism or anything. I mean, you say we approach women with compassion.
Correct.
And I mean, I think the women who are reading your book are probably already agree with you.
Correct.
And yeah.
No. I get messages every single day from women around the world who thought they were picking it up to debunk it. I'm going to prove this bitch wrong. And then they read and they go, shit. They check the source material and they're like, damn, she's right. And then it changes their mind.
Well, I'm sure people can be, I'm sure that a lot of people will read it and agree with you and change their minds. I'm just saying that wouldn't the most effective way to change people's minds who are already feminists be telling women you are being oppressed because of this same thing that we're all agreeing on?
We can tell them it's bad for them, but that doesn't mean they're going to listen, especially when they're young and the entire culture is, Leonardo
Wait, so
said,
what's
is
your
saturated
prescription?
with it.
My prescription is by basically psyoping feminism, because I mean,
Wait, what do you
She
mean
wants to
by
hijack feminism and turn it.
hijack feminism?
yeah. So
We'll just stop the reaction right there, because I could sit there and probably hyper focus on that for too long. But yeah, I need to read Rachel's book. I love that people are reading it thinking they're going to debunk her, and then they're like, oh my gosh, it's perfect. The word is spreading at least a little bit amongst women. This is a different type of whatever podcast. I've seen more and more different, women coming on there and not just wanting to send people to their OnlyFools site. And with women speaking truth, like Rachel and Leonard, the lady in the black, it gets to them, telling them, I know you're not happy. I know this isn't what you want. You've been lied to. But they take that in this setting. Those women took that and turned it into, oh, we've been lied to. We're victims of men. No. It's not that. You're victims of, government, bigger than government. You're victims of propaganda. You're victims of other women. You're victims of some bad men. But by and large, good men, the worst thing they did was stand by and let it happen, thinking, well, I love my wife. Well, I love women. I'm going to, they hijacked the church. I'm going to love my woman like Christ loved the church. Well, Christ didn't, give he sacrificed himself on the cross, but he also flipped over tables and he said, repent. He said some things that were not popular. It wasn't all just, easy, easy life. It was hard truth. Narrow is the way. So loving, it's like when you love your children, you don't let them eat candy for dinner. Well, the men loved us, but the good men just kind of stood by when it was, time to vote and time to work and time to da. But they were also victims of the propaganda. And what really were they going to do? What power do you have against the state? Against names like Rockefeller, Rothschild? What power do you have? And I will stand right next to that lady who says she's a conspiracy theorist, because I'm sorry, that term was popularized in the 60s to discredit people who think the way that I do, in that I can see what's obviously true. And they teach us on purpose to say, well, how could so many different governments be in on it? How could so many different people be in on it? Well, they don't have to be. They can be complicit. They can be also lied to, But I think we have enough distance now that we can look back and see how things went. And that Yuri Bezmenov video, right? Where he pretty much was like, and this is how it'll be done. And that's how it was done. And you look at the last 5 to 10 years and the woke ideology pushed in not just universities, in elementary schools. Why? There is definitely an agenda. And now, with all that, we have Bolshevik ideology, and we're facing, Civil War and World War. That sounds like Russia, 1915, 16, 17. But, just a conspiracy theorist. What do I know? Men are fine. There's nothing happening to you guys. It's crazy. But anyway, thanks for joining me on this one. It's fun. I like to study humans in their natural habitats, especially the female types. I'm proud of people like Rachel Wilson and the lady in the black, because of going out there and saying these things that are not popular, not at all. One of my favorite things on this actually was watching Rachel, because a couple of times she'd have like an Andrewism, like even her facial expression was just like him. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. So she did him proud. I think she did him proud. So thank you guys. And remember to find peace. Take some time to feed your soul. And I love you guys. Take care. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.